Greetings, everyone. This is Eric Stewart from the Fishing Fanatics podcast, and today I'm joined with elite serious angler Matty Wong. How you doing, Matty?
I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Good to have you on here, and definitely squeeze in a little bit of time in between practice, too, when you're going out to these different lakes. And, Matty, I just want to start with your story about how you got the bass fishing. So I think it might be an interesting one, you being from Hawaii. So you just go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for you guys that don't know, I'm born and raised on the island of Oahu. I'm from the city of Honolulu. And surprisingly enough, we have bass out there. And we have bass on two of the islands, on Oahu and Kauai. And there's Lake Wilson, which is the lake that I grew up fishing. It's a dammed up river, and we have a bunch of series of streams and stuff on the island. And excuse me. And you would think that it's clear water because you think of Hawaii, but it's actually kind of stained. It's maybe like 2 foot of is, and there's a lot of laydowns. You got largemouth bass, you got peacock bass, and in the streams we have smallmouth bass. And so that's kind of how I got introduced to it. And there was a couple different places that we would go as when we were kids. My dad would, my parents would take us to this really cool botanical gardens. And there's this place on the east side called Ho'omaluhia. It's kind of a tongue twister, but it's a beautiful botanical garden. And there's this overflow for this dam. And they would have these like fishing days on like this designated stretch. And there was giant smallmouth in there. And no one really would tap into it. And they would only take kids fishing on that one stretch. And so everyone would have bamboo poles. And I had like a bait caster from fishing in the lake. And I remember we would go camping there. And I brought my fishing gear one time. And I must have been like 8 or 9 at this point. And like by the time I was 6, I already knew how to throw a bait caster. And so I remember I walked down and first cast, I threw a black spinnerbait out there. I started rolling it back and just destroyed by like a 3-pound smallmouth. And it was like I unlocked this hidden level in a video game where now I have this secret little honey hole. And my brother and I, we would just go there for hours and just catch just tens and tens and tens of just loads of smallmouth bass. And when I was 13 or 14, I had it to myself for a few years, and it was pretty special. And that really kind of helped dial me in with like learning how to make certain decisions from the bank and whatnot. And I caught a 4 1/4 smallmouth, and at the time the record was 4 1/2. And so I like just almost broke the record for Hawaii. And so that was kind of a fun feat, just getting close. But, that's kind of what kicked me off in bass fishing. And then it wasn't until I moved to California in 2013 where I was really able to focus in on other types of skills, learning how to fish the grass, learning how to, fish highland clear reservoirs and a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, Matty, I wouldn't even think I'd never even thought that we would even take this conversation to smallmouth because I didn't even know that there was smallmouth in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the streams. And it's interesting because I just spent past couple weeks up north, and it's funny to see. And now that I'm grateful that I've been able to fish kind of all over the country and see different builds of smallmouth. And I know that there's a couple different like subspecies of smallmouth, but it's interesting to see on the way that they feed, depending on the kind of water that they're in, the different body shapes, and then also mouth sizes that they kind of take on. Like the smallmouth out in Havasu are different from the ones that are, like maybe like Lake Pyramid in California, and they look completely different from the ones that we have in Hawaii. And the ones that we have in Hawaii they're kind of narrow, they're not super tall, and they're really long. And they're pretty skinny because they don't get to, certain times you'll get some big fat ones, but they're not like ones that you get up north, like on the Great Lakes, like, St. Clair or Ontario or anything.
Yeah, so they don't have like broad shoulders down there in Hawaii. Just like
Yeah, no. Yeah, because it's kind of neat. Like whenever I go home, I always go stream fishing. And imagine walking through a rainforest, and at places the stream isn't even wider than 6 feet, and you can pitch a little tiny little like like a dark sleeper or a little popper or something like that, and just like 2-pound smallmouth just comes out and just destroys your bait, and you're fighting it through in like 6-pound tests down up and down a tiny stream. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's different.
Yeah, that's definitely different. And what's the bass culture, like the bass fishing culture in Hawaii like? Because I know there's probably a lot of saltwater fishermen out there, right? It's kind of the culture.
Yeah,
How's it?
it's different for sure. I mean, growing up, there was a core group of us. There wasn't the Hawaii Freshwater Fishing Association that they have now. There was a few guys that were really diehard, and those are the same guys you would see out on the lake all the time. And the guy that used to cut my hair when I was a kid, this guy named Lance, Uncle Lance, I would call him. Uncle Lance would take my dad fishing, and then he would take me fishing. And then my dad got a little boat, like a little 10-foot aluminum John boat. And so it was a really tight-knit community. So I can always like call him up, "Oh, Uncle Lance, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh, their bed, the Tukes are on bed right now." And so we kind of knew what to do in certain areas and whatnot. But pretty interesting, because when Tuke canaries spawn, they're different than largemouth and smallmouth, where the female actually guards the nest, and the male is the bigger one that sits outside and will have like 5 or 6 females on a stretch. And so it's neat because it taught me a lot about bed fishing in general. Learning certain the way how to approach a bed, and then also how to coax a fish into eating and finding that little sweet spot.
Absolutely. Well, shout out to Uncle Lance. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure he's like super proud of you. Is he still around, or?
He is. Yeah, my Uncle Lance is still around. He's he'll send me texts from time to time like, "Hey, Raul, we're so proud of you," and that means a lot, because there's only like literally there's probably less than like 50 hardcore guys and in the whole state, and that's including like Kauai and Oahu, and I'm sure there's probably more that I don't know, but it's a small community. Like all my other friends that I grew up saltwater fishing with, because I did a good fair amount of saltwater fishing, and all those guys that are like, wait, Lake Wilson, they think Lake Wilson because it's like polluted place kind of in the ghetto, and I'm like, dude, let's go, it's fun, let's go. I take them out and I show them, like, oh, watch this, cast over here, and there should be one there. And guys that have never caught a bass before, I'll take them out, kind of guide them and put them on some stuff, and they're like, wow, I never knew how much skill goes into casting or in the cadence or whatnot. And it kind of opens their mind, because it really it's almost like cross training for ocean fishing, because any type of predatory fish, they'll set up on certain things kind of similar, but you have current and tide to relate, but they're all ambush predators. So it's and it also helps with your casting accuracy when you get out in the ocean too. So it's kind of cool, kind of different.
So let's bring it to, well, first let me ask you this question. How did you get into tournament fishing? Was that when you moved to California?
Yeah. I mean, they were doing club events in Hawaii, but it wasn't really like, I was too focused in on like playing music and going to college and all that. Like nightlife was a thing, in my 20s. So I was just like I was a little distracted from the lake. And then when I moved to California in 2013, I didn't have my only, I guess, getaway from working in Los Angeles and Hollywood was to go surfing. And then when I found out, or when I realized that like, well, actually California is one of the best bass fisheries in the nation, I kind of rekindled that love for bass fishing that I kind of put on the back burner for a few years. And I never knew what a Senko was. I didn't know what a chatterbait was. There's a certain things like in 2013, it was like probably 2014. Someone was like, bro, you got to get a pack of Senkos and EWGs. I'm like, I know what EWG is, but what's a Senko? And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, bro, like I fished in the 90s. Like we didn't have Senkos back then, like, so it changed a lot, and that kind of got like, I don't know, it opened a can of worms for me because I absolutely fell in love with it, to the point where every waking hour that I wasn't either surfing or on set, I wanted to be at a pond or at a lake or whatever. And then when I got my boat in 2016, I just spent every week that I could up on the Delta and just really try to learn different techniques because I wanted to eventually tournament fish. That was the goal. And I found a local club, just literally Googling how to get into tournament bass fishing. Like the most kookiest thing ever, like I was just like, how to tournament bass fish. And this was, I think, in 2017. And I found this club, Ventura County Bass Club, and they kind of really kicked it off for me. They were Bass Nation associated, so I had my membership with Bass. I started fishing the Bass Nation Trail. I did it 1 year as a co, and then the next year I did it as a boater, and then I ended up winning the whole thing, and here I am now. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was so in 2021, the TNT Firework Bass National Championship. You won that, and then you earned your spot on the Elite Series in 2022. So was that kind of what you were talking about with like winning the whole thing there?
Yeah, that was just absolutely. It was always like a pipe dream of mine. There was a couple different professions that I chased, trying to be, in the upper echelon, if you will, of like professionals. Saxophone being one of them. But I wasn't really, I'm not that great with like reading music and whatnot. And it was more like work to me. It felt like school. It didn't like really click. And then, acting, I loved it, but then you'd have different things and parts of the industry after working in it for so long that kind of really turned me off to it. But fishing has always been something that I've always drawn to. And I just remember putting in countless hours on the Delta thinking, man, I don't know what this is all for. Like, what is this? Like, I remember distinctively having that thought because there would be days where I wouldn't get up, like, I would blank or I would catch one fish and I'd be like, bro, what am I doing out here? Yeah. Like, spending all this gas money, like, coming all the way up to the Delta, and, like, I enjoyed it, but there would be the days where in the summer it would just be such a grind where you're punching hydrilla mats for hours and not getting a bite, and I'm like, what am I doing? You know what? There's got to be a bigger plan somewhere, or like why I'm doing all this, but it's kind of funny and how it all kind of worked out, man. It's wild.
Dude, that's the truth. Those days when you're out there and you're getting skunked or it's just hot and you're sweating, it really makes you step back and think, be like, it tests you. Do I really like fishing? It's like, yeah, all right, I like fishing. And then you get set those couple fish, you're like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. This is why I do it.
Seriously, yeah.
So you've got a lot. You definitely have a lot going on. Checking out your Facebook page, like surfing, playing the saxophone. I know before you were on the Bassmaster Elites, you're in Hollywood as a photographer, taking a bunch of pictures of the A-list celebrities out there. Who's the coolest celebrity you met? I was interested in that.
Conan O'Brien is just straight up professional, really good guy. Like, he's just as funny. I was in New York like at 4 a.m. This is the first time I had met him, and I wasn't on set with him. And like, we're walking through the terminal, and we're at JFK. Like, I'm the only guy in there, and then I just see this 6'4" like dude with like this big like yellow hair on. I'm like, Conan, and he like turns around. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "What's up, man? You going to LA?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "All right, I'll see you there." And then like, I don't see him for like 6 months later. I book a job and we're working with Conan for I forgot what show he was on, and I think it was the Conan O'Brien show. And you don't bring up that kind of stuff, but it's funny. Like, he was the same dude that I met in the terminal, and really cool. I mean, Kevin Hart is. Yeah. I like my rule was I'd give them 3 strikes. And if they were a jerk 3 different times on 3 different occasions, then they're probably a jerk. But then there's other times where your publicist is being like really, you had other things go on in your life. Like, they're humans, they're just like you and me. And, but everyone puts them on these pedestals. But if you're gonna be a jerk to me 3 different times on 3 separate occasions, then you're done. Like, I'm like, yeah, like Cardi B, no, she's trash. Yeah, I can't stand that woman. Ariana Grande is a sweetheart. She's like, yeah, I like Ariana Grande a lot. Dua Lipa, she's amazing. I worked with her on my birthday, and she wished me happy birthday twice. That was kind of funny. Like someone was like, it's his birthday today, right? She's like, oh my god, happy birthday, and I'm like, oh thanks, And then like when she was leaving, she like wished me a happy birthday again. So I'm like, okay, like I like Dua Lipa.
All right, we like that.
Yeah, I can keep on going, man. I've met a lot, worked with a lot of them, but at the end of the day, it wasn't something that I felt that was fulfilling me at the core. Like as a waterman, as someone who grew up in the water and around it, as a surfer, as a fisherman, I'm an outdoorsman, and I felt the most spiritually filled and like just as a full human when I was outdoors. And so when I would work on set, yeah, the payday was awesome, but I always felt like I was compromising a bit of my soul. And it got to the point where I think it was during COVID where I'm like, man, I need to start looking for different careers, because it was just super draining. I had to take a COVID test every week, multiple times a week. There was times where like a celebrity would walk, like we shot Jennifer Lopez for Coach, and she was such a nightmare to deal with. And like everyone got COVID tested, and then she didn't like get COVID tested, and then didn't have to wear a mask and everything, but we all had to. I'm like what? Like, what is this double standard? Like, if she's gonna get the flu, COVID, like then we're all gonna, So I don't know. It was silly. So I'm just glad that it just made a perfect segue into the new career. And I really love the fishing industry. Whether or not I'm gonna be fishing on the elites for however long I end up fishing the elites, I want to stay in the fishing industry because it's people that I understand, people that understand me, and I feel like I've now made at least a somewhat of an impact on some people, and I'd like to think that I'm here to stay now. So that's kind of, I'll segue the celebrity topic.
Business owners and marketing professionals in the Philly area, Bad Rhino takes the overwhelm out of digital marketing. With tailored digital marketing services, from social media management to SEO and PPC advertising, our expert team navigates the complexities of the digital ad space for your business. Let Bad Rhino lead you to success. Visit badrhinoinc.com and let's take your business to new heights. Bad Rhino, we do digital marketing, so you don't have to.
I love it. And, third place at the Sabine definitely helps. And you got a few other tournaments coming up here too. But one of the questions that it's kind of like from our first conversation until now, what's it like traveling for the Elite Series for you?
Do you want which version do you want? Do you want the unadulterated truth?
Yeah, give me the truth.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's brutal. Yeah, it's countless, like thousands of miles driven, hours behind a truck. Sketchy gas stations, fast food, not sleeping in your own bed. I no longer have an apartment to get on the Elite Series. I knew that I had to kind of liquidate everything. I literally sold everything I had except for my personal effects that I sent back home to Hawaii, and then everything else that I could fit in a truck. And I've been living out of that truck now for a year and a half. And so I'm super grateful that I have an incredible following and incredible friends that, always reach out and offer me places to stay. And it makes this journey right now a lot easier. But it's tough from going from like had my own apartment, like my own taffel room, everything was dialed in, and like I had my routines in those places, and to go to that to like an inflatable bed, and sleeping in like Carl Jacobson's like garage, which I've done. And it's taxing. But on the flip side, I mean, that's going to be like that's the tough part about it, you know, being on the road, being away from friends and family and my girlfriend and everyone. And I think that's a part, I just needed to say that first because I think that's the part that no one really sees. Everyone sees the limelight, everyone sees the camera and like all the fun stuff that goes on. And which in reality, that's of course, that's fun. I enjoy that and that's super rewarding. But it's not without a lot of sacrifices and a lot of hard work that goes unseen. So that's the part about being on the road. Now, when it goes to fishing new places and checking out new towns, I think that's really cool because as a kid that grew up in the middle of the Pacific, I never thought that I'd be driving through Clayton, New York, going down to Orange, Texas, you know, or up to in Tennessee, you know, Missouri, all over the place, up to Mobridge, South Dakota, which, I mean, nothing against Mobridge, South Dakota, but I hope I don't ever have to go back there. So it's like there's places that I just never would have thought that this job is taking me. I used to travel a lot for photo, and so I'm kind of used to the travel, but to drive everywhere, it's takes it to a different level. But yeah, it's definitely a job. Definitely a job.
And that's so real too, because you see these guys, right? They're at the Classic or an opener or an Elite Series, and really the only thing people see is them catching fish on video, and then in the weigh-ins when they hold the fish up, and these people kind of seem like higher than life, and you know, kind of these bigger figures up there. They're winning a bunch of money and everything. So for you to kind of relate that in like real world struggles where, yeah, I am away from family. Yes, I had to, you know, get rid of my apartment, stop paying rent there. And I had to go on a leap of faith and go into this whole thing. I think is big. Just to call out there. That is big.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I think that's the part that I want that to be as real for the kids and people that want to get into this as a profession. Because I meet a lot of people that they're like, man, I can't wait to join you on tour. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like I want them to join me on tour. Like if that's their goal in life, I want nothing but the best for everyone in this world and everything that they want to conquer and achieve. I'm their champion. Like I'm their guy that's gonna be like, dude, do it. You want to be the best, like the best person that like jumps over obstacles with a scooter, like, bro, be that guy, you know, like, and do it well and own it, you know, or you want to be the best, like, anything, man. And so, like, and it's funny because for me, I've lived my life so far full of passions that I've chased, being saxophone, you know, playing professionally for 8 years, acting, doing that, being on TV shows and getting arrested on television and getting paid for it. Doing like was a valet driver, you know, I used to make pizzas. Like I've done a lot of different jobs, a lot of different careers, and so when you find something that you're super passionate in and you want to go for it, bro, you got to go for it, and don't let the haters or people like doubt your passion for something, because I think that's easy to feed into the negativity that we have all inside of us. We all have that second voice that's like the insecure voice that says, you know, well, what are people going to think? Or like, or what if this is this and this and this? Those are all what ifs. And until you do, you won't ever know what the scale of greatness you can become. So I always try to tell people, you know, about go for it. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And I know the opportunity to fish the elites was such guys fish the opens for 10 years, you know, and never make it. And the fact that I made it in through the Bass Nation and cracked it in my first year, I'm like, I got to go for this now, because I don't know in 5-10 years, I'm going to have the same kind of grind to want to do this same job. And so that's why I told myself, you know, I would never live myself down if I didn't take the, you know, the acceptance into the elites and at least give it a shot. And here I am.
Yeah, I love it. All right, hang on. I got to ask you this. I was going to ask you another question, but you brought up getting arrested on TV and then getting paid for it.
Oh yeah. I played a criminal on 2 different shows. I played a surfer stoner bro that steals a dead body on Hawaii Five-0. And so you could actually go ahead and YouTube that. Matty Wong gets arrested. It's pretty funny. So you'll have fun with that. And then this other show called Perception. I think the episode's Kaleidoscope or something. I play an Asian gangster and I like beat some dude up. And then I also get arrested. And both are on national television. I think they're both in syndication. So I get residual money for it every month. This is like get like a check for like $5 and like a check for 75 cents. And like when I get like a bigger check, I'm like, ooh, I just just kind of like forget about it. But it's kind of neat to look back at that and know that that was a goal that I was trying to do and become a union actor, and which I was able to achieve. But then once I got there, I saw the lives of the other actors, and I seen what they, their social circles they ran. I seen what, kind of the toxicity that a lot of actors kind of deal with. Whether that's not even with like like substance abuse, but it's also with like ego. And I think that's something that's super detrimental to a lot of people, because they let their ego get in their way, and that's just the worst thing ever. So.
No, I got you. Well, I'm definitely gonna check out the video of you getting arrested.
Yeah, have fun with that. Yeah. You might find some other random stuff too. Have fun with that.
So you got the upcoming event on Lake St. Clair. What are you looking for out there? And I think it's like end of July it's coming up. So.
Yeah. Well, I spent a week there 2 weeks ago, and that's when we first talked. I was driving back down through Detroit, dodging people that are road raging, and it was crazy. That's a wild fishery. I've never been on a fishery where you can be 15 miles out. It's still 15 foot deep, and I found some stuff. I found some really cool structure. I ran around a lot. I did close to 300 miles in that week. And I know in 2 days I did 180 miles. So I graphed a lot. I looked a lot, and I found some really cool stuff. And so I think those fish are going to be more in post-spawn. I think they're going to be more grouped up than they are now. I know the MLF guys are there now, and they're kind of struggling too. So, and it was right on par with what, me and my buddy Johnny went up and caught. And some guys will struggle. I mean, we blanked for 2 days trying to figure them out. And once we figured it out, we were able to put in the ski like 18 pounds or more. So hopefully we can kind of like fine tune that a little bit more. I think the grass bite will probably get better as they get more in a post spawn, but that's kind of what I'm looking for up there. I need better finishes to stay on tour. And these last 3, I need to make cuts. And if I don't make the cut, then yeah, it's going to be the end of my elite time. So I'm going to just keep going.
No, that's a real thing. So when you're up there in practice, you do a lot of trolling, side imaging, just graphing, and checking out the different like structures underneath the live scope, or
totally,
or fishing sonar.
Yeah, that was a whole different workflow that I had to adopt. Now being an elite angler is really utilizing electronics, because before, I mean, for those who know my story, and for those of you who don't, I qualified with basically no electronics. I had one 6-inch Lowrance graph on the bow that I would use for depth and the depth and water temp, and then I had a black and white on my console, which was like a 1995 model Lowrance depth finder, and that I would only use that for depth and no mapping. All my mapping was on my phone. And that's how I fished the Ouachita, and that's how I fished the Delta. That's how I fished all those events. And I just fished through reading conditions and through reading the bank and whatnot. And so now practice is a little bit different, where now side scanning certain areas. Now I'll go look at my topo map. All right, what are my prime areas that I think that these fish are going to pull off to after they're done spawning? What are your certain zones that are probably going to hold up year-round, 1, and then 2, what are going to be the areas that they're going to migrate to, or what you think that they're going to migrate to? But it's definitely hard because I'm trying to catch up with a learning curve of guys that have been out here doing it for 10, 15, 20 years. And I'm seeing all these lakes for the first time. So I'm trying to, do as much pre-practice as I can and idle around. I just spent a week on St. Lawrence right after the St. Clair. I found a bunch of good stuff out there too. So that place is a whole different ball game, and the way that those fish relate to certain things is completely different. So it's a big learning curve for every single fishery that you go to, whether it's the north, the south, or the east, and it's completely different from the West Coast. Yeah, you have certain things that apply across the country, and you can catch a crop like with the same techniques, but there's certain subtle differences that are big players when it comes to professional level angling, that if you don't know how to key in on and don't learn those things, you can be left in the dust. And so I'm just trying to kind of catch up for lost time.
Gotcha. Now, Manny, I appreciate all the insights to your story, insights of how you got to the elites too, all the other stuff you do with the saxophone, surfing, and kind of your whole story growing up too. That was huge. Let's wrap it up here. I always like asking people what their PB largemouth and PB smallmouth is.
Okay. My PB largemouth is a 9.2. It's a 9.2. So I don't have a double digit yet, unfortunately. I've seen a bunch, but I don't have one yet. I've lipped a 12 for a friend off my boat when I had boat issues on the Delta. I'll never forgive him for that. I was working on my boat, and he took the trolling motor, and we literally just pushed off from the dock, and we're still in the marina, and he throws a rivet out, and he's burning a rivet back in in the middle of the channel. A 12 comes and just destroys this rivet, and he's like, dude, and I'm like, I'm trying to do something. He's like, dude, and I'm like, what? And he's like, help. And then it just comes out, and I'm like, oh my god, dude. And I freak out. I grab the fish from him and completely forget my boat's broken and celebrate with him. So that was kind of that was the biggest fish that I'd lipped out of the water. But yeah, no, for me personally, 9.2 largemouth. I caught it surprisingly on a crank on a lake that it was a northern strain, so it's not a Florida. It wasn't a Florida strain F1. And then my largest smallmouth I just broke again last week, and that's a 5 pound 7 ounce smallmouth. And then prior to that was last year's 5.5. So I just subtly bumping up. I was 1 ounce call on my PB. But yeah, still waiting on that double digit.
Yeah, you'll get it. You'll get it, man. Just fishing down south too, especially they'll find it. I always I've said this on the podcast a couple of times. I'm from the Philadelphia area, so it's tough out here. I think I might have broke my PB last night on a fishing at night, but my scale broke, so I'll never know.
What? Oh no! Did you get measurements?
I'll send you some pictures after. No, I didn't get measurements or nothing. I was panicking a little bit too. I was shaking. I was like, "Oh, this is my PB," and then my scale was just dead. I'm like, "No way!"
Oh man, it's okay. They're there. You'll catch another one. Yeah, it sucks. I caught one. I had something similar, and I had a sheriff boat pull up, and they were closing the lake, and this is in California, and I bombed a cast with a HUD, and I said it on the video. It went viral on TikTok as almost 1 million views or something like that on TikTok, and I'm winding it, and I swing, catch it, and then get it in my boat, my net, my buddy nets it, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, is that my 10 pounder? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's in the 8 to 10 pound range. They're so big, and it's so hard to gauge because an 8 pounder or a high 8 could be a 10 in the spawn, and then you can catch a 10 that spawned out and weighs 8, and so it was a 25-inch bass, but I was like, I don't know. And then the cop's I'm like, do you got a scale? And he's like, no, dude. I'm like, okay. Oh. Released it, but yeah, you'll get your PB again, dude.
I'll get it.
You'll get it.
Okay. Cool, buddy. All right, cool. I'm gonna give you the floor here real quick. Where can people find you, follow your story, and then follow your career on the elites too, like Instagram, all that good stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you guys want to kind of follow along, one, subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Matty Wong Fishing. I do a weekly vlog of all the tournaments that I do, all my fun fishing trips, some travel vlogs. I try to keep it real and entertaining and also informative on there. So that would be one way. On Instagram, which is Matty_Wong, and that's MATTY_WONG. I also do a separate one, which was my it's kind of my content creation company called Capture Fish, and Capture Fish is all lures, and also I'll do a live stream on Capture Fish for all like kind of the diehard bass heads that want to see, you know, what I was using during tournaments and all that. I do full gear breakdowns on there. And then also for you folks that are on Facebook, go ahead and like and follow the page Matty Wong Fishing. And TikTok is the same, Matty Wong Fishing. And that's about it. And feel free to send me a message. I always try to get back to everyone. I always appreciate when people reach out, whether if they like the story or if there's something that's, you know, near and dear to them, or if you have any questions. I'm always try to be a resource for anyone out there. So appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, Matty, I appreciate you jumping on this podcast, doing this with everybody, and I wish you the best of luck in the series coming up.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I had a good time. It's always fun to talk story with another fisherman, and hopefully we get out of the water soon.
You just listened to the Fishing Fanatics podcast with your host, Eric Stewart. Feel free to check out our other podcasts and our other interviews on our channel on Spotify, YouTube, and much more. Check out our Instagram page, TikTok, and Facebook as well.